All right, this problem asks us to, without technology, find the quadrant of the terminal side of 10 radians in standard position. So the key thing is without technology, okay? That makes it a more interesting question. So one thing I want to point out is we know that, like, in terms of the quadrants, right? Like, if, in terms of angles in standard position, if you land on the positive y-axis, you're a fourth of the way around this whole circle. If you land here, you're half. You're 3/4 if you land there, and then there's one rotation. And so the reason I mention that is because if we can figure out how many rotations 10 radians is, it'll help us not lock down the quadrant. So I could say something like, well, let's convert 10 radians to rotations. So 10 radians to rotations. So one rotation is worth 2 pi radians, right? So that means now that I've got 10 divided by 2 pi rotations, and that's equal to 5 over pi. Okay, so now our goal is to basically approximate pi over 5 rotations. Now pi is, so we can be we can do this a couple of ways. One is like we can notice that like pi is in between, so pi is about equal to 3.14, right? Which means that it's in between 3.1 and 3.2. And so if we write that, that lets me do a little arithmetic. So this, if that's true, notice that this is true. Okay, you'll notice I reversed the location of the 3.1 and the 3.2. It's because when you divide by a bigger thing, it's a small, when you divide by a bigger number, it's smaller. So that actually belongs over there. All right, and watch, so these are, you know, now I know I just have to basically kind of lock down where 5 over 3.2 and 5 over 3.1 are as rotations. Okay, but this is the same as 50 over 32, and that's 50 over 31. So 50 over 32. Okay, and 50 over 32 is the same as 25 over 16, which is also 1 with 9 left over. And this 31 goes into 50 one time, and there's 19 left over. And now look, this is just a bit more, right? This is just slightly more than 1.5. Okay, and this also is just a little bit more than 1.5. Okay, I mean, a half of 31 would be 15.5. Okay, and 4 more is not, I mean, basically all we want to know is 19 over 31, is that more than 3/4, right? Because we're trying to figure out what quadrant we're in. So look, I know that 5 over pi is that many rotations, is a little, it's in between a number of rotations that's a little more than 1.5. So 1.5 would bring us, 1.5 brings us here. So it's slightly more than that. And, but it's not bigger than this, and this is clearly less. So this is clearly less than 1 3/4. Okay. We can examine that more in detail, but this is clearly less than 3/4, which means we're, you know, the other angle is, right, it's in between two angles that are both in quadrant 3. So this is in quadrant 3, and this is in quadrant 3, which means 5 over pi is in quadrant 3. And so the answer is quadrant 3.